Dave Meltzer and his star ratings are often a controversial topic between wrestling fans. As wrestling is subjective, everyone has a different view as to what matches deserve a 5-star rating. Only a few matches in WWE history have received the illustrious 5-star award, with Walter vs. Elijah Dragunov from October 2020 being the latest. Like, Dave Meltzer doesn't go and hand out these 5-star ratings for nothing. And in contrast, Meltzer is also known to rip apart matches that he thinks have no place on a wrestling match card, and some matches he will even award a minus 5-star rating to. But which ones were they? Well, join us now as Wrestlelamia looks at the 10 worst minus-star matches in WWE history. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for daily wrestling videos, and follow us on Facebook for exclusive lists. Number 10. David Schultz vs. Rocky Johnson at an MSG show in November of 1984, minus 3 stars. The first match on this list took place way back in '84 and featured David Schultz taking on The Rock's father Rocky Johnson at Madison Square Garden. The match was panned by Meltzer, who gave the match a terrible rating of minus 3 stars. The issue with the match is that it didn't feature a lot of actual wrestling. It was basically 10 minutes of stalling. Meltzer would infamously say this when discussing his minus 3-star rating from the match, saying, "You could burn more calories by sipping coffee than Schultz did in this match." Number 9. The Fabulous Moolah vs. Debbie Combs, Fresno show on June 8, 1987, minus 3 stars. According to Meltzer, the worst female match in WWE history is a match between the Fabulous Moolah and Debbie Combs that took place in '87. The match was Meltzer's word for how poor the match really was. Number 8. Andre the Giant vs. Jake the Snake Roberts at WrestleMania 5, minus 3 stars. Andre the Giant vs. Jake the Snake Roberts on paper sounds like a fun feud, but unfortunately their match at WrestleMania 5 was universally panned, and Meltzer would rate the match minus 3 stars. The problem with the match was that Andre was basically immobile at this point, and him having a passable match was very hard for him to achieve. The match was almost 10 minutes long, which was far too long when taking into account Andre's condition. It would end in a DQ victory for Roberts after Andre decided to choke special guest referee John Studd. Number 7. Big Boss Man vs. Al Snow Kennel from Hell match at Unforgiven 1999, minus 3 stars. The match between the Boss Man and Al Snow at 99's Unforgiven pay-per-view is well established for being one of, if not the worst gimmick matches in WWE history. The two would compete in a Kennel from Hell match for the Hardcore title. Now, this was actually quite interesting as it involved a steel cage surrounded by the Hell in a Cell. But to make things even more complex, outside of the ring would be dogs that were supposed to look vicious and intimidating. Must have cost a fair few bucks as well. The match was a complete flop as everything that could go wrong really did go wrong, and the crowd didn't care about anything going on in the match. The dogs around the ring were absolutely terrified to be out there in front of thousands of fans. They would cry, urinate, defecate, and even mate outside of the ring. Now, to be fair, that's quite unique. You never see that in any other wrestling match, do you? Number 6. Gerald Briscoe vs. Pat Patterson in an evening gown match at King of the Ring 2000, minus 3 stars. Briscoe and Patterson are true icons of pro wrestling, and most fans know the duo for their work as the Two Stooges during the WWE's Attitude Era. However, what many fans wish to forget is their evening gown match for the Hardcore title at 2000's King of the Ring, a match which Meltzer would end up rating minus 3 stars. The match consisted of two beloved talents in dresses doing comedy spots such as Bronco Busters and awkwardly stripping each other whilst the crowd booed. It was truly awful. The end of the match featured Crash Holly entering the match and pinning Patterson to win the Hardcore title, which was the only highlight of an atrocious match. Number 5. Finlay and Hornswoggle vs. the Boogeyman and Little Boogeyman at No Way Out 2007, minus 3 stars. No Way Out 2007 featured a pure comedy match in the form of Finlay teaming with Hornswoggle to take on the team of Boogeyman and Little Boogeyman. The story going into the match was that the Boogeyman had introduced a mini version of himself to combat the villainous duo of Finlay and Hornswoggle. The match itself was only 6 minutes long, thank God, and whilst the wrestling on offer was harmless fun, Meltzer clearly wasn't a fan of anything in the match and would rate it a dismal minus 3 stars. Number 4. The Ultimate Warrior vs. Goldust in Your House 7, minus 3.5 stars. The Ultimate Warrior's '96 return to WWE programming was a complete failure, and there's no better indication of this than the reception to his match with Goldust at In Your House 7. The match would be for the IC Championship, and it featured virtually, well, zero wrestling. It began with Goldust being chased out of the ring by Warrior, where Goldust remained for several minutes. Warrior then retrieved Goldust's director's chair and his trademark robe, as Goldust would continuously be reluctant to enter the ring. Goldust then began to put on his robe and sit on the director's chair. He then proceeded to put his hand out for the Warrior to kiss, but Warrior then decided to burn Goldust's hand with Marlena's lit cigar. Warrior would then clothesline Goldust out of his chair, which resulted in Goldust running away and Warrior winning the match via countout. This truly was a -3.5 star affair. Number 3, Hulk Hogan vs Andre the Giant at WrestleMania 3, -4 stars. Without a doubt, Meltzer's most controversial rating in this list relates to his rating for Andre the Giant vs Hulk Hogan at WrestleMania 3. The match is often cited as one of the most famous matches of all time, and the image of Hogan body slamming Andre is still played in highlight reels over 30 years later. Now, although the match isn't a technical masterpiece, it does have a lot of historical significance. It's clear that Meltzer rated the match solely off the quality of wrestling on offer during WrestleMania 3's main event, and not anything related to the historical importance or the crowd reaction in the match. Number 2, the Bushwhackers vs the Fabulous Rougeaus at WrestleMania 5, -4 stars. WrestleMania 5 is mostly known for the main event match, as this featured the breakup of the Mega Powers. However, also on the card was a match so bad that Meltzer rated it a shocking -4 stars. The match was between the future Hall of Famers the Bushwhackers taking on the Fabulous Rougeaus. The reason for this match being so poorly received is that it featured really poor comedy that the crowd didn't care for, and pretty much had no reason to be on the WrestleMania card, and Meltzer's low rating of it certainly shows this. And number 1, Mr. T vs Roddy Piper at WrestleMania 2, -5 stars. Mr. T vs Roddy Piper's boxing match at WrestleMania 2 holds the distinction from being the only WWE match in history to hold a -5 star rating from Meltzer. The match was 13 minutes long in front of a crowd who pretty much didn't even care. Although Piper was extremely popular with the audience and Mr. T was a household name, the desire for a boxing match to be seen at Mania was simply not there. Boxing in general has never gone down well in front of a WWE audience. Take for instance the Brawl for All concept that was introduced during the WWE's Attitude Era. Many fans just hated it. The boxing match would end in round 4 as Piper would hit a body slam on Mr. T to cause a DQ. The DQ brought to a close one of the worst matches in Mania history, and according to Meltzer himself, the worst match in WWE history. But there you have it folks, 10 of the worst -star matches in WWE history. Are there any more that should be added to this list? Let us know in the comments down below, and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.